To order the regular meeting of the City Council for the City of Daly City for Monday, July 25, 2016. Can we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Christensen?
Here.
Mr. Canepa?
Here.
Mr. Gingona?
Here.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Present.
Mr. Torres?
Present. Mr. Buenaventura is calling us in via teleconference from the Wells Fargo Arena in Philadelphia, where he is a member of the delegation from California at the Democratic National Convention. So we appreciate you calling in, Ray. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Is there any objections? Okay, hearing none, those minutes are approved. On the issue of the agenda, I'm asking the council to consider a motion to change item number 5 to come up as item number 4 instead. In other words, the first thing we take after consent agenda to accommodate Mr. Buenaventura's schedule. And then we'll take the public hearing item after that, at which point Mr. Buenaventura can drop off. With that change, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any objections? Okay, agenda is approved. Under the consent agenda, before I take a motion, just wanted to let the folks who are here know, and for those of you at home who have called me and asked me about the temporary dispatch services contract, this is not the agreement that memorializes the move of the dispatchers from Daly City to San Mateo County. We had a number of dispatchers that resigned and found new jobs already. So that was about half the force. So that's about 5 or 6 of them that have left. So this contract is to backfill those positions only. That's why it's for a short time. It ends in October. And there are 3 matters on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Any oppositions? All right, hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Okay, moving on to item number 5. This is the proposed public safety parcel tax measure. If you have any inclinations to speak tonight, please make sure you fill out one of these white cards that can be found at the entrances and turn them up to the dais as soon as possible. And let's begin, Ms. Martell. Good evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, staff is going to be providing for you the analysis which you requested at the last meeting related to a potential parcel tax measure that could be developed to be placed on the November 2016 ballot. Just by way of very short background, the council is aware that with the adoption of the fiscal year 2017-18 and 2018-19 biennial budget, that it reflects ongoing fiscal issues that have existed in the post-Great Recession era dating back to 2008 and 9. And despite many, many measures that we have taken during that period of time to reduce the city's operational costs by way of take-backs from employees in terms of salaries and benefits, reducing positions, eliminating positions, reducing operational costs. We have been doing all of those things for the last 7 years. And despite that, there has been a combination of things that have created the perfect storm, which include lower than expected and slower than expected full economic recovery, which means that we are just now getting back to pre-recession levels in terms of our revenue generation. But we also have expenditures that have increased significantly as a result of the recession, and specifically related to payments that the city is required to pay for pension obligations that are a direct result of the losses that CalPERS, our retirement system, suffered during the recession. All of those things have converged into the perfect storm, and we have been facing a $6 million structural deficit that we have been talking to the council about for least the last 18 months, if not longer. But this particular budget that was recently adopted was the most draconian budget that the council has had to adopt because unlike the past where every other operational department except public safety had witnessed some significant reductions in staffing and other operational expenditures, including reductions in services and programs, this particular year we were confronted with having to make cuts in public safety. And those cuts in public safety that are reflected in the current budget that was adopted include the elimination of an engine company, which is equivalent to 9 sworn firefighter positions, and the reduction of 6 vacant positions in the police department. Both of those reductions will have an impact on both the police and fire department's ability to deliver services the way that they have historically in the city. Consequently, at the time that the council, or at least a majority of the council, approved the budget that I am speaking of, the council then directed staff to take a look at what potential there might be for a parcel tax measure that could help restore the public safety costs that were reduced in this current budget. We did in fact review that, and we, after some significant analysis, we've determined several factors which are going to lead to what we are proposing tonight if the council wishes to move forward. The proposed tax rate that we analyzed is based on the revenue that would be required to fund the 5-year cost of 6 police officers and 9 firefighter positions, which is approximately $19.2 million over 5 years. This is based on an annual cost of $12.3 million for 9 firefighters and $6.9 million for 6 police officers. There are about 23,800 taxable parcels in Daly City. We exclude any government-owned properties and other properties owned by churches and things that are exempt from the property taxes. So based on that number, 23,800 taxable parcels and the need to generate $12.3 million over the 5-year period, the annual parcel tax required to restore the 6 police officer positions is about $58. And to restore the 9 firefighter positions, it's about $104, respectively. So the total parcel tax rate required to support full restoration of the public safety services that were reduced is $162 annually, or about $13.50 per month per parcel. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce Russ Branson from PFM, our financial consultants. You have heard from them in the past regarding a number of the a lot of the financial analysis that we've done, and we verified the analysis that was conducted in-house and had PFM run the numbers again. So they're here to show you the methodology that was used, and so that the public that are here and those at home will have an understanding of how these numbers were arrived at. So. Russ.
Great, thank you, Pat. And Mayor, council members, thank you for having me here. And I'm going a lot of what I'll tell you is to underscore what the city manager just reported to you and talk about what's the analysis behind that. And I'd like to start with really talking. A few months ago, I was before you talking about a 5-year financial plan, and this is one of the slides we had in there. It's one of the reasons that you're dealing with the issues now is that this shows your fund balance, which last year was at $15.4 million. By the end of your FY18 adopted budget, expected to be about $9.4 million. And without corrective action, which this, even what we're talking about is not corrective action, additional action will still be needed, that the city is looking at potential deficits even in the future. So really what we're talking about here is not fixing this, but to replace some of the revenues that were created. But the city has a long-term, continuing, ongoing financial issue that you're attempting to deal with while you're still plugging some of these holes. So this was a slide that was that really shows the result. Why did services have to be cut? Why did positions have to be cut just to get to this point? The next slide is, I think as the city manager indicated, what was cut out of the 17-18 budgets were 6 vacant police officer positions. So positions that had been, that are approved but not funded. They will not be funded within these budgets without additional revenue. And then the 9 firefighter positions. The 9 positions because that is 1 fire engine, 3 shifts, 3 people per shift, firefighter, fire operator, and fire captain on each of those shifts. So for every fire engine you have out there, it's 9 fire personnel that it takes to manage those. So getting rid of 9 gets rid of 1 engine company that will not be there to provide services. And as we just talked about, without additional revenue, there really is no likelihood you'll be able to reestablish these services anytime soon from growth in the city budget by itself. So the question is, how did you get to these? How do we get to these numbers? Over the 5 years, we're talking about $19.2 million. It's a significant amount of money that the city has saved by eliminating these positions, but that will need to be raised from a new revenue source. And so this shows the breakdown with the blue bar at the bottom being salary, the red bar being pension, Medicare, workers' compensation, your cafeteria plan, which is your health, uniform allowance in the green, and then the kind of one-time recruitment training, uniform, police gear, and then operating costs for the fire engine at the top. So for the fire, it's that $12.3 million. That's what builds up to that cost. For the police, the $6.9 million. Those items. It's primarily salary and benefits that we're replacing here for those individuals. Very little on the operations or one-time capital side. The new revenues that are needed. So this shows that $19.2 million cost over a 5-year period. There's an increase. You see the red bar here is recruitment and training. That as you hire new people, you have to train them. There's a cost to that. It's a one-time cost experience in that first year. And then as staff is hired, pension costs continue to go up, salaries continue to go up. And so you see that increasing costs over time. The purple line assumes that there's a parcel tax, which we'll talk about how we got to it, but that you're collecting a little over $3.8 million a year in parcel taxes. Yeah. So you're collecting a little more at the beginning, a little less at the end, but it keeps it flat. Over time, that $3.8 million a year allows you to fund all 5 years of costs that we're talking about here. And again, without the funding to reinstate these positions would cause the city significant additional fiscal distress. You can't really afford it at this point. So the fire tax to fill the gap, that $3.8 million a year, we'll show in a second how we got there a little more, but it's $162 per parcel, assuming the 23,800 parcels, and that breaks down to $58 a parcel for police, $104 a parcel for the fire costs. And you're talking about a 5-year tax. So at the end of that time, depending what's going on with your budget, you have to get that reinstituted again or make adjustments in your budget at that time if you don't have it. So that's the benefit is is possibly it gives people time to let's get in there and let's get that back and see if we can do other things. But something will have to be done if no other budget fixes are found prior to that time. And so from that standpoint, we say tax revenue should be tracked separately to enhance transparency in terms of where is this money going and what's it funding. And as Pat said, I think it's often helpful to look at this not as $160 a parcel, but $13.50 a month. It's a pretty workable amount for most people who own property, and it goes to the property owners, not renters per se. And then just in summary, this is a little more detailed analysis, how between fire and police, the breakdown between salary benefits, the recruitment training, the fire operating costs, how those break down, and then what the annual costs are. So total, annual, and then the annual amount we need for the parcel tax to get to the $162 a parcel. So what this shows, in essence, is that it's just building the case for what do you need. You want to do parcel tax, you need about $162 a year over a 5-year period to reinstate those positions that are currently out of the FY 17-18 budgets. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the analysis.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ray.
Go ahead.
So can you tell us about the request for equipment?
I can address that issue, Ray. So the request had been made initially about adding funds for GPS for police. And after reviewing that issue with the police department, we determined that based on input from the chief and the captains, we actually do provide GPS systems for patrol vehicles upon request. Many of the police officers elect to use their phones system because they can use Siri and they can, it's really hands-free. So the ability to provide GPS exists. Now, the chief had spoken with you, I believe, Councilmember Buenaventura, about another type of GPS navigation system. We determined that when we tried to price it, the aftermarket availability of those systems was not, we just couldn't do it. So then it would mean that over a 5-year period of time, we would only be able to outfit those vehicles that would be replaced during that 5-year period of time, and it wouldn't necessarily provide the systems for the entire fleet. And when we check the cost, when you buy it as an add-on, when you buy patrol vehicles, the cost was really just exorbitant. And so the cost for providing GPS systems now for every single vehicle, we determined that the police department has that funding available in asset forfeitures funds, and so we could provide it in-house. We really didn't need to add it to the parcel tax.
Okay. Now, the aftermarket GPS that I talked to the chief about, is that something that's going to be looked at in the future to try when we do purchase new vehicles?
Well, like I said, we did look at both, and we determined that there is not an aftermarket product that you could add to the existing vehicles. It would just take up too much space in the patrol vehicles that we have to add it. In the future, we could look at purchasing vehicles with that navigation system in it, but the cost for it was pretty substantial.
Okay.
Any question from the council? No. I have a couple questions for you. When you're looking at, one of the slides, I think it was slide, it was slide number 4, and you put in red the PERS, Medicare, workers' comp. What do you do to account for the cost of medical, dental, vision benefits that seem to go up every year? How do you figure that amount into this?
Yeah, so that's the increase of that. Yeah, so what we did in this, for this analysis, just like what we did for the budget model itself, we actually used your retiree health OPEB analysis. So you have an actuary that's looking at healthcare costs and making a projection of those. We're somewhere around, I think, 4.3% a year is my memory of what the assumed inflation there is. They're projections, and if we could all figure out what exactly medical inflation would be, we could probably, or any kind of inflation, we could, that would be a trick that most people can't do. So what we use is we're utilizing here the expertise of the actuary who's dealing with this all the time, making a rational assumption over the next 5 years for what that will be. So it's a little high. It is higher than expected inflation, which is probably expected inflation about 2.3%. Medical inflation for this analysis about 4.3%.
And you took the inflation costs for the salary and benefits as well. In other words,
so salary,
you're not using present day values. You're using what, a cost of living increase every year? Or?
Yeah, so there's an assumption, the assumption built in here is what kind of salary increases will the city council provide? Because those are really under control by the council. So you have whatever is in here. I think we assume 2% a year is my understanding of what's the inflationary amount, within the salary, but that's all done by contract. So the 2%, that can include some amount of inflationary over time, however you provide that. There's also some built-in inflationary costs in salary in that people are moving up their steps. So there's more money being paid just by that somebody moves, they get hired at step A and they move up to step D. But we didn't assume that it's not necessarily tied to inflation, because that is something that the council does control in what you approve in terms of contracts.
Would it be a fair statement, in your opinion, that because this parcel tax is covering salary and benefits, that the council of tomorrow in these years, should this parcel tax pass, has to bear in mind that if you go well beyond the amount, you just mentioned 2%
Right,
inflation, which I understand it's within the council's
right.
purview to decide. But would it be a fair statement to say that the council needs to be more cognizant now of how much it allows in terms of negotiations to give to the police and fire in terms of salary increases, because it has the potential to go beyond what we're raising in this money, and to
Yeah.
the point where, and let me just finish my
Right.
point. Here's my point: is sorry it took a long
No,
time.
that's right.
That if we are not careful as a city, if we give too much too early, we'd eradicate some of the ancillary benefits of getting this money in when we are getting it in.
Yes, that's good. That's correct. Even without getting this money in, the city still has issues that you need to be very careful about raises overall, and your ability to fund those.
Okay. And last question, just so I'm clear, I know you've for lack of a better term, you've parceled out the 104 on slide number 7. It says annual parcel tax 104 for fire, 58 for police. We're proposing one parcel tax at 162, right? This is just for clarification?
Just for clarification where the money's going.
Okay. Last question, Pat, what did it cost the city so far to do this analysis? Ballpark it?
I think.
$4,500?
$4,500.
Okay.
Well, for our outside consultant,
Yeah.
then
Sure,
internal
then
staff.
internal, so we don't,
Yeah.
okay, got it. All right. Any other questions? No? Okay. I have some cards. I have 3 cards on this topic. Thank you very much, Mr. Branson. Appreciate your time. Glenn Sylvester?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
wasn't
I'm
sure
sorry.
if it was just on this part of it or other parts of it.
Did you want to, you want to ask questions first?
No, I think I'm good on that.
Did
so
you
I'll
want to
go
ask
ahead.
questions first or take
I'll
public
wait
comment?
till the end.
Okay. So let's start with public comments. You have 2 minutes to speak. Let me call Glenn Sylvester up first. Good evening, Mr. Sylvester.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Canepa, Councilmembers Gingona, Christensen, and Councilmember Buenaventura, who is out of town. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for having, directing the city council, city manager to go through this measure and to get additional information. And being a property owner in Daly City, this is going to be a bitter pill to swallow, but a pill that I gladly would. However, I did read the statement here, and I just had a few questions, just for clarification, because it appeared to me to be from the 35,000-foot level. The last page where it says fiscal impact, and I want to, Mr. Branson, on his slide number 3, recruitment and training. Now, I know Daly City Police is a part of POST, Police Officer Standards of Training, and to which all police officers, if they are trained through POST, POST pays for all the training. So we need to make sure that these numbers are correct. It is no cost to the city for police officer training. Fire apparatus. I'm unsure about that because the whole purpose was to bring back Engine 95, and if I recall correctly, as Mr. Branson on slide number 4, he said this was going to be done through attrition. You've heard the president from the Fire Association speak, and he made mention that you're doing the same amount of work that you've been doing years ago with the population that has increased double today. So if this is through attrition, does this mean we're going to hire 9 more firefighters? I quite don't understand. So basically, if we can just get a clarification on that, I think that would be great and an understanding. Thank you so much for
Thank you,
your
Mr.
time.
Sylvester. I'll try to get, the city managers keep track of questions, so we'll try to address them all at the end. Okay, Pamela Di Giovanni. We lost Ray. Did we lose you, Ray? Yeah, he'll call back. Or just hit redial. Hi, Pam.
Hi.
2 minutes, Pam.
Are you there?
There you are, Ray. Welcome back.
Okay.
Hi, Pam, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Thank the staff and Pat Martell for doing the work. And this is such a critical issue, as we know that our firefighters and our police officers especially are being targeted these days. We want to make sure that As Glenn Sylvester said, well, I'm not going to repeat on the slide 3. We just want clarification on the 9, because we want to make sure that we're fully staffed in the future, our population grows. And why is it that we thought it was number 3, it just said that we're just going to revive the Engine 95 when the vote came to close down the engine, but it never said anything. We thought the city was still going to pay the salaries of the firefighters that are attributed to Engine 95. So we just need a little clarification. We're on board as far as supporting our police and fire and whatever they need. And if there's a new kind of training, I'm not sure if they're aware of it, already had it, the CIT training or anything that's going to come into effect now that they're being targeted and things have very escalated on our police officers. We want to ensure that they have what they need to be safe out there. And there's also a new type of armor or anything. So we support that, and we thank you for your time, and thank you for looking at this and giving our support for our public safety. Thank you.
Sure, thanks, Pam. Okay, Marie Brizuela.
You say that
Marie?
so well. Good evening.
Hi.
To the council, and mayor, and everyone here. I'm feeling really good about what I'm hearing now, and I'm hoping that this will go through and that we will, that we have a committee already behind us, ready to go and help you guys every minute of the way. One of the members was unable to come tonight, but he said to put his name forward, or his support forward for this. I want to be sure that we have a clear understanding that we will have equipment for everybody, that we will have the same staffing. I know there was a little confusion about keeping, whether or not we were going to keep the 9 people before or not, but let's do all we can, and let's be sure that the money that's going to be collected from the folks out there is going to be used exactly for what we say. And thank you so much for bringing it this far along. Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marie. Marion Mann. Good evening, Ms. Mann.
Good evening. I'm glad that you were able to put this in order so that you could vote on it tonight, so that it could be passed in November. As a property owner in Daly City, I fully support what you're doing because I have children, I have grandchildren, my neighbors, they're vulnerable and they need to be protected. And I think this is the best way you can do it. The only thing I worry about is that all the dollars that come in are used just for exactly what they're collected for, and I'm sure you're going to follow that. As you know, Tyler would not be alive today, though he's 16, if it weren't for the quickness of the fire department they got there 5 or 10 minutes before an ambulance. So, I really have to support it. Now, the only thing that I have to fall fault with you is at the council meeting of May 5th, you approved raises for 6 executives in Daly City, and I would really feel that you should have been thinking of the protection of the people who elect you rather than someone that's working for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Bill Stepanovich? Did I say that right?
Stepanovich.
Oh, Stepanovich, sorry.
Bill Stepanovich from the Franciscan Resident Activity Committee.
Oh, sorry, was this for the, was this
Oral
for this issue?
communications.
Oh, oral communication, okay.
Not that.
Thanks, sorry about, I'll call you back up, Bill, sorry about that. Okay, I have no more cards on item number 5. Any questions, additional comments, Ms. Christensen?
A number of us received emails from members of the public saying that, wait a minute, there's over 33,000 households in Daly City. So they're saying that the 2,800 is not an accurate count, but parcel taxes are based on parcels, not households.
Correct.
So if I own a large apartment building, which I don't, but wouldn't that be nice, of 25 units, that's one parcel. It's 25 households, but it's one parcel.
Correct.
So that's where the reduction comes in. Also, on this ballot in November, there will be a half-cent sales tax from the county. Ms. Brizuela's school board is asking for a bond as well, right? we all got a flyer in the mail. And so we need to keep that in mind as well. And the fact that the city cannot campaign for this. It's illegal for the city to campaign for the parcel tax. The city is allowed to present budgetary facts, but we can't say vote for this or don't vote for this. So that means if people are going to campaign for it, it's going to have, the money for that's going to have to come out of somebody's pocket, but it can't come out of the city's, because we're forbidden by law to do that. So just a little bit of information to sort of set the stage, perhaps.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I just want to make some brief comments. I guess first let me thank the staff for putting this together under a tight timeline. And so let me commend you for doing that. Second, let me thank my colleagues on the City Council. I think we all recognize that this is a very, very important decision. And sometimes we get faulted for not being collegial, but I think on this particular issue, we've really come together and given staff clear direction. I am looking forward to our next meeting. I think it's in August to move forward with this parcel tax. One of the things I want to sort of emphasize to the council and to staff, considering that we've given clear direction and considering that we've put this on the agenda for August 8th, I do have one concern, and my concern lies with us not doing any polling. And so what I'd like the council to consider, I'm not saying at this time, but is to give staff the opportunity, when we do, throughout the state of California, when they do these parcel taxes, what they do is, and I haven't heard of any city who hasn't done it, or any school district, is that they do a poll. And so in no way, shape, or form should this hold us from moving forward. But what I'm saying is, once this does get onto the ballot, I'd hope we'd be able to do some polling. So that's my thoughts, and I'll give it back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Gingona, you have anything?
No.
Mr. Buenaventura, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I'm good. I'm glad that hopefully this council seems to be moving forward with this. I think it's really important enough for me to call in from Philadelphia. So
Okay.
I'm hopeful we're unanimous.
All right. Pat, did you have any final comments?
Just briefly to tell the council, mostly for the benefit of the public here, what the next steps are. So the next steps that would be involved, if the council is giving us direction to proceed with this, is that we will come back on the 8th of August, which is the next regularly scheduled meeting. And at that time, the council would be required to adopt a resolution calling for an election. Additionally, you would be requesting the San Mateo County Elections Office to consolidate the parcel tax election with the general election, which is scheduled for November 8th, 2016. And you would also be required to approve on that date the ballot measure question, the full text of the proposed measure, and the tax rate statement, which would basically be the financial analysis that we've detailed for you tonight, which imposes what the tax rate would be if the measure is approved by the electorate. I've included in your report, I won't go through it all, the various dates following the 8th, but the absolute deadline for all the materials to be submitted is August 12th, and then that begins a 10-day public notice period. And during the time that there is the public notice, any member of the public can protest and can secure a writ that would force an amendment or change to the language or whatever is being proposed. So there are a couple of times over about a 20-day period that the public has an opportunity to change what is being proposed. But by August 29th, which is the final date to submit all the rebuttals and everything, the arguments and rebuttals and all of that, then there would be a last 10-day calendar period from August 29th to September 8th. And at that point in time, the public has one more opportunity to change the measure, but following that, the ballots then go to the public. The mail-out ballots go to the public between September 29th and October 18th, and then it becomes final. So I just wanted you to know that there's that period, but we do have a strict requirement that you approve those items I mentioned at the next meeting on the 8th.
We will.
I also want to add to the
Microphone.
city manager.
Microphone. Your mic.
Is that we also have to have a draft ordinance in place. So in
Right.
the event that this does pass,
Okay.
we have to have that
Okay.
approved as well. That's also on
So
the
that's on the 8th as well?
on the 8th
Draft
as well.
ordinance?
Draft
as well.
ordinance
Okay.
with the resolution.
Okay. Before I call for the vote, I do want to make a statement, and I'll apologize that you guys have to indulge me, but it is my last year, so I'm taking a little liberty here. But let me assuage the members, both here and on the phone, a lot of who called me and complained about, why do we give raises to people if we couldn't save public safety? It costs $3.7 million a year for what we're trying to do with public safety, for fire and police. I guarantee you, not giving raises to executives would not have given us $3.7 million a year. The executives of this city work just as hard as the rank and file of the city. There is absolutely no reason to treat people differently simply because of their economic status. Some of you may disagree with me, and that's fine. But we've heard a lot of rhetoric last week in Cleveland about people that are this way or that way, and we should discriminate against them or treat them differently. We in Daly City do not treat people differently because of their economic status. I hope that the people take into consideration that when we are trying to do the fair thing, we do it for everybody, not just for some people, which is what we're doing here. Okay? All right. Without further ado, let's take a roll call on.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to respond just so that the public has an understanding of what this does and what it doesn't do?
Sure. There were some questions
There
from
were a
Mr.
couple of
Sylvester and
questions.
everyone else, so let's
Right.
talk about.
So let me just explain. So there seems to be a misunderstanding about the salaries and benefits. So yes, it is true that the way that we were going to be transitioning out the positions in the fire department was that they would be through attrition. So as people retired, then we would fill those positions with those 9 positions. During the time that engine company was not operating, those positions would be used to backfill sick leave, vacations, and that kind of thing, and reduce our overtime. So that's how we were planning to maintain those positions until they all got moved into positions where people had retired. We were not suggesting that we were going to be continuing those salaries even if we get a parcel tax. We cannot afford to do that. So the parcel tax will fund the 9 positions necessary to put that engine company back to work. As far as the apparatus, the engine would not be sold off. We would maintain it in the fleet. And so if the parcel tax passes, then we still have the engine, but the operating costs for the apparatus that are included in this is the cost of maintaining that engine. We're not buying a new one. We're using the same one, but it costs us money to keep that engine operating.
Right. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to?
No motion.
Up.
On 5.
What was that?
There's no motion, right? On the 5, it's communication.
Then you can make a motion.
You can make. I think we need to make a motion for
really?
this.
Oh,
Is there a
really?
motion to recommend the city council direct the city staff to put this forward for the August 8th meeting,
Second.
so that we can then vote on whether or not we want to put this before the voters in November?
I'll second.
Okay. Let's have a roll.
I didn't hear what
The
happened.
motion, I'll make the motion
okay.
that we
Gotcha.
recommend to the city manager and her staff to put together all the materials for the August 8th meeting,
Great.
so that on that day, we can vote to then put this tax measure on the November 2016 ballot.
I'll second.
There's a second. Is that good? You have any questions?
No, I just couldn't hear.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's do a roll
I
call,
got them
please.
both cranked up and I got new batteries.
The volume's in there. Okay, go.
Ms. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Canepa?
Aye.
Mr. Gingona?
Yes.
Mr. Buenaventura?
Hi.
Mr. Torres?
Aye. Okay, you have the direction. Thank you very much. Ray, thank you for joining us. If you want to drop off, we'll understand. We have quorum at the beginning, so you can drop off, okay?
Okay, thanks a lot, everybody.
Thanks, Ray. Good luck.
Guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're on to item
But
number.
just a sec, just
I'm sorry.
one little second. Now, for everybody out there watching on TV, and for those people sitting in the audience, now it's your turn to step up, because you gotta get this campaign going. It's
true.
It's true.
Okay.
We're
item-
willing to work with you.
Yes, item number 4 is public hearing on amending the urgency ordinance establishing rules and regulations for water use during a water shortage emergency. Mr. Sweetland, good evening.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight's public hearing has been duly noticed and posted. The intent behind the public hearing is to amend the existing water emergency ordinance, which is 1389, to conform and be consistent with the recently adopted changes by the State Water Resources Control Board on the mandates on the rules and regulations associated with the statewide drought. Prefacing the comments, the drought continues in California. Governor Brown has extended the drought declaration through January of 2017. State Water Resources Control Board had made some minor adoption to that existing drought declaration. Namely, the bullet points that are set forth in staff's recommendation are consistent with those in the state board's modifications. And then while those bullet points in the staff memorandum are consistent, it's also important to note that Daly City's own restrictions to repair indoor or outdoor plumbing fixtures within 72 hours of notice is intended to remain in effect within the draft ordinance that is before you. The other substantive item with this amended action is the notation that Daly City's Tier 2 8% mandated cutback by virtue of our own local assessment on water availability versus our water supplies is actually a 4% cutback. So we're not at zero as other agencies are. Within the Bosca service area, there's actually 3 agencies that are still with some locally imposed mandates. Cal Water and Bear Gulch, which is in the southern part of the county, at 2%, Daly City at 4%. And then Sunnyvale is looking at a 5%. So some of us are continuing, and it's just an issue associated with our own local supplies versus the demands that have been in place since 2013, 2014, consistent with the state's calculations. All other restrictions, as noted in the staff memorandum, remain in place. The enforcement aspect is through any appeals through the city manager, through the city council. So with that, staff's available to answer any questions of the city council.
Any questions for Mr. Sweetland?
Yeah.
I'll open the public hearing. Oh, I'm sorry, you
I
had
had
a
a
question.
question.
Sorry.
Patrick, could you just, for the public at home, so that they know what they can and cannot do, it never hurts to remind them one more time.
Certainly. Well, one thing is, once you have an indoor or outdoor plumbing fixture which is causing visible water loss, the staff will give a 72-hour notice to repair. The other consistent non-essential uses is the use of potable water for outdoor landscapes, which causes any form of runoff onto adjacent property to non-irrigated private public walkways, roadways, and parking lot surfaces. The use of water, the use of washing cars without a positive shutoff valve is prohibited. The use of water to clean off driveways, walkways, sidewalks, unless it's for a bona fide sanitation purpose, is prohibited. Any use of water in a decorative fountain or other decorative water feature, unless it's part of a recycled water system or recirculating system. Restaurants are still requested to ask patrons for water before being served. Operators of hotels and motels shall provide guests the options of having their laundry done daily or to have them done, in easy understood language that the users are advised that they can save water by not having their laundry every day. The prohibit of the outdoor irrigation for ornamental landscapes or turf between the hours of 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. continues, but we are recommending that the existing 2-day-a-week restriction be rescinded consistent with the state board regulations. Also, the prohibition on watering within, during, or 48 hours after a rainstorm is prohibited. And then we have the language consistent with the 4% cutback. And then we also, within the existing ordinance, as we have in the past ordinances, reserve the right by resolution if we need to come back and do forced conservation, you still have that option, but it's a separate item. But it's just the existing authority has remained. And the violations that are enforced by the staff at Water Wastewater Resources will start off with a written warning first, and then after the written warning, the first violation is a $250 fine. Third violation is $500, and then a $1,000 fine for fourth and subsequent violations, not to exceed $10,000 in any calendar year. And any determination of staff's action is appealable to the city manager, and upon that appeal comes to the city council. We did note in the staff memorandum that to date we've had 18 violations that have only gone to a verbal warning. After that, everybody has been complied. Most residents in Daly City obviously have responded strongly to conservation, have continued to be responding strongly to conservation, have been very receptive when we've pointed out the violations and non-essential uses. But again, the statewide drought continues when we really won't have a better handle on what the next year brings us until about January of next year. So as we've said, it's important to continue to use water wisely. Even the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, which is not having any conservation standards, is still asked the BOSCA member agencies that they, as they did 2 years ago, to voluntarily conserve 10%. So the request to go from 8% to 4% is well within what the residents have been able to accomplish, and also reinforces the message to please use water wisely.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Sweetland.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Well, let's
Second.
open it,
Let's
and
open
then
it.
we'll close it.
Okay.
'Cause I don't have any cards in it. So we're opening it, and there's a motion to close it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any objections? All right, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Let's have a roll call, please.
Ms. Christensen?
Yes.
Mr. Canepa?
Aye.
Mr. Gingona?
Yes.
Mr. Torres?
Aye. Okay, the ordinance is adopted. Thank you, Mr. Sweetland. Okay, under public appearances, oral communication. Marie, I have another card for you. Did you want to speak again?
Yeah, but.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to call him an order. I just wasn't sure. Let me call Bill Stepanovich. I got your name right this time, Bill. Sorry.
My name is Bill Stepanovich from the Franciscan Resident Advisory Committee. I'm here, I'd like to thank Judith Christensen for all her work since about January, even before that, and trying to help us resolve the issues up there. Link had submitted a request to transfer the park to the Franciscan Housing Corporation, and that was several months ago. So I'm here on behalf of the officers and the board members, which are the owners of the homes, the 500 homes in the park, that we are interested, very interested to find out the next study session to see how we can proceed and whether there's a bond council that has been hired to find the feasibility, because FRAC has been very involved in looking for to refinance, but we've had difficulty with Link in the documents. We've had Alan Natal has contacted several lenders for mortgages, but due to the documents from Link, we could not get the financing. So we understand it's a very complex issue, and the city's facing many issues, but it's a time-consuming issue, especially with the financial issues with the city. So we're hopeful that this meeting will come up in the next few months, and we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, Pamela Di Giovanni.
Good evening again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. First, I want to say it's great to have a unanimous council together for something that's so important, that we all care about public safety. And we're moving forward now, and to assure you that the Public Safety Committee, which will comprise of your local residents and Marie and our fire and police, we will ensure to do everything we can, and that grassroots style, that to make sure that this passes, and that you'll be proud that this will be a great legacy, that we'll make sure that we have show other cities that we can do this all together. We can work with our council, we can get things done, and we can put things aside and move forward and do positive things. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Maria Brizuela.
To 2 minutes, I have 3 items. I'm going to talk fast. Okay, I just wanted to know about the sewer repair. I know that the city has taken away, if someone has a problem, backed up sewer, that we have to pay all the way to the main line. So I was just wondering, I just heard talking to some colleagues of ours in homeowner associations that the city will now perform that task if we pay for it. Is that going to be extended to
We
all
can't
of the
answer any
houses?
questions on this period, but you can follow up with the city manager later.
Yeah, but I mean, is that okay? I mean, I just bring
You
it
can
in.
ask the question, we just can't answer
Oh,
it.
no, I
It's
know,
not-
excuse me.
That's all right.
I'm asking the question for you to answer later.
Okay.
Okay, so it's kind of important, because then I want to get the word out to the people in Broadmoor,
Right.
because we belong to the same sewer line. The other thing is that we did have a speaker on clean energy. Apparently, we're all going to be going with another company instead of only PG&E. So that sounded good, but just wanted to make sure that everybody knows about it. We're happy that they came and talked to us. A lot of questions we asked, hopefully we'll get those answers to. And then the last one is, the high school passed a wonderful measure. More people turned out to vote for it than they expected. We will do the same, if not better, because we have really something good to sell to all of the people out here. It's important, so we'll be there, don't worry.
Okay.
Thank you
very
so much.
All right. Moving on to appointments for board and commission. Hearing none, we're moving on to reports from the council committees. For the council committees of July 11th through the 24th, there were 2 meetings. I'll start with the first one, which is the Daly City Colma Chamber of Commerce. You might remember that during the budget, during the meeting involving the budget, we postponed voting on the Daly City Colma Chamber of Commerce. It was about $50,000 we were going to give them because we wanted to meet with the board. So the city manager, Patricia Martell, and I met with Georgette and 2 members of her board to talk about the chamber. The primary purpose of it was to really investigate and understand exactly what and how the chamber works to support the economic development initiatives we're doing. Specifically, for the last 3 years, we've been hosting the LPGA tournament here called the Swinging Skirts at Lake Merced, and unfortunately, the chamber has not come out to support it. So what we agreed on, in a nutshell, was we're going to recast the agreement we have with the chamber so that we have a specified methodology for how we expect the Chamber of Commerce to support these kinds of events, these kinds of initiatives, because as you know, all of you are here tonight because we have a shortage of funds, and instead of trying to pass partial taxes every year, it'd be nice to get more business opportunities here. So when we do that, we will recast the agreement to specify exactly how we want the chamber to work, minimum participation criteria, things of that sort. So we have more of an understanding of what the chamber should do and how they should partner with us as a city, so that we have some real teeth, if you will, to the contract with respect to how we are supporting them with the $50,000 amount of money we give them. So the staff and I will be working on some language to put into the letter, into the agreement, and I think that's coming back on August 8th as well, I think. We said that right, Pat? I think so. So on August 8th, that'll be before this council as well, so you can see what the agreement looks like, what the language is, and I understand that the Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Sarles will be here as well. We are not trying to disband the Chamber of Commerce. We merely want to kick it up to a next level, if you will, to get the chamber to actually put in writing what it purports to do in terms of supporting us. Okay? That's it for that. And then we also had another meeting on July 21 with the Franciscan Mobile Home Park Council Committee. That was myself and Ms. Christensen. Did you want to do a quick summary?
You go ahead.
Okay. So we met with the staff to understand some of the issues that are going out in the mobile home park. We had a great presentation from Tatum and from Betsy Zobel. Bottom line, there's little we can do from a legal standpoint in terms of us being the issuers. There's really no more responsibility or obligation we can take on. But what we will do, and I'm going to get a little hazy here, Rose, but I think one of the things that we wanted to do is consider how the Franciscan Mobile Home, if they're meeting the affordability requirements, and to what we have seen, they are in fact not only meeting the affordability requirements, they're exceeding the affordability requirements. That's based on what we've found so far. When we come back to a subcommittee meeting with the Franciscan Mobile Home Park, which is sometime in September, we'll try to schedule from there, and we'll be able to give you some more details on that. So as far as that's concerned, we found that affordability requirements were being met. And then the other issue we talked about was the transfer requirements. And so we're going to be working with our bond counsel on getting these, not our bond, but the bond counsel, to help us work on getting the requirements in order for the transfer of the property to be effectuated. So that's where we were as of the time Ms. Christensen and I met. We are going to schedule a subcommittee meeting again with the public so that the Franciscan Mobile Home Park members can come here and meet with us and listen to what we have before us and offer their own opinions or comments about what's going on there. Okay, and Ms. Christensen, did you want to add something?
Short comment. I asked when the committee was bringing information to us to make sure that they calculated what the affordability standards are. And the affordability, the amount of money that's called affordable, goes by a specific formula. It has nothing to do with how much people can pay. And that amount was $1,390. And part of the problem is that the dollar amount that it's based on as the median income is Marin County, San Francisco County, and San Mateo County. You see what happens there. And so that's the way the contract was written, and they comply with that part of it. Do they comply with what we would like to see there in our hearts so that people on very limited incomes can stay there and be able to be part of the community? That's something we're going to be looking at in the future, but the way it is written now, $1,390. If you're paying more than that, you should probably let us know. And if you're paying less,
yeah, and that's the maximum.
thank the causes that be, in
That's the
universe.
maximum amount, which I don't think, from what I remember, we saw anybody paying that max. I think everybody was just south of that, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
And we're going to continue to look at it and see what we can do to make this transfer happen. And then you can set your own requirements.
All right. That's it for the council committee meetings. Are there any reports from city council? Okay, hearing none. Are there any reports from staff? No reports from staff. We do have some adjourn in memory tonight, and let me start with Mr. Gingona.
Okay, I'd like to start to adjourn in memory of Eddie Taylor, the father of Jeff and Greg Taylor, the owner of Val's Restaurant, and a very well-known person in the community, always there for us. Great food. His first restaurant over at Stonestown was at the Red Brick Inn, I think. But yeah, gonna miss Mr. Taylor. He was a fixture at Val's Restaurant, and he will be missed. The second person I'm adjourning memory of is Carol Ann Matucci. She was the wife of Steve Matucci, who was a teammate of mine at Westmore High School, and who happened to, after leaving Westmore as a wrestler, became the head coach of South San Francisco, where he is currently the head football and wrestling coach there. His wife, Carol Ann, had some pretty serious health issues. She had a lung transplant a few years ago, and she was able to survive to see her son get married. So she will be missed, and Steve is a great addition to our community, and I'm really going to miss Carol because she brought the best egg salad sandwiches to the wrestling tournaments. I'm really going to miss her. And as I was talking to Steve yesterday, it's no wonder that Steve was and is and continues to be so successful in his career, and it's because he had a wonderful woman and partner next to him. So I'd like to adjourn in memory of Carol Ann Matucci.
Thank you, Mr. Gingona. Mr. Canapone.
Just want to adjourn in memory of Rosaldo San Juan Castro. That's the son-in-law of Tess Gregorio. He had succumbed to a long illness, but he was a tremendous musician. Had the opportunity to go to his services at Duggan's, but he was loved by a lot of people. He had 5 children. And so to the San Juan Castro family, we send our condolences.
Okay, we have some adjourned memories for some of our employees and their immediate family members, too. We adjourn in memory tonight of Melvin V. Brown Sr. He is wastewater department employee Andre Allen's grandfather. Beverly Marlene DeMond, that's wastewater department employee Kyron Milton's mother-in-law. Patrick Arthur Pellicoud, that's police department employee David Pellicoud's father. And Meanana Losalia Perez, that is City Attorney Office Isata Sakal's sister. And for those folks and for those who were mentioned previously, we adjourn in memory and send our prayers and our thoughts to the families. And is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, say aye.
One more, sorry. I did have one more thing I had to do. Okay, got to do this. The Rising Sun Nationals on Saturday, August 27th. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Championships at Jefferson High School in Daly City. Jang and Christina Arceo of Arceo Shotokan Martial Arts are putting it on. It's going to be a great tournament. Always a great opportunity to be able to see our kids participate in tournaments like this. I think you should all show up. It's on August 22nd. I'm sure it'll be a great snack bar.
Okay, and with that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.